something that is, honestly, deeply chilling. We're talking about human psychology and our baseline perception of safety. You know, we all have those places where we just let our guard down, right? Our quiet neighborhoods, a brightly lit department store, our own beds. But what happens when that illusion of safety is just abruptly shattered? In this explainer, we're going to break down 3 verified, completely true accounts where the absolute mundane turned into a living nightmare.
Okay, picture this. You're 16 years old, it's a freezing cold winter morning in India, and you're just standing there brushing your teeth, getting ready for school. Your mom and your older brother are chatting in the next room. Completely ordinary morning, right? But then, your other brother casually strolls into your room and jokingly drops this terrifying line. Want to see a ghost? Come here. He walks you over to your parents' bedroom, points out the window, and literally shatters your entire morning routine.
So, it makes you wonder, what happens when the terror isn't in some abandoned, haunted house at midnight, but it's just standing right there, out in the open, outside your own window? That's really the core theme we're unpacking today. The sudden, totally jarring disruption of the places we think are safe.
Let's get right into it with our first case, the man in the fog.
This first story, shared by a woman named Sarah, is honestly a masterclass in the psychological dread of the unknown. So to really get why this was so terrifying, you have to picture the scene. Sarah lives in this small, quiet neighborhood, maybe 10 houses total. But on this specific morning, there is a thick, blinding winter fog rolling over the main road out front. And standing dead center in that road is a man. He's not walking. He's not looking at the houses. He is just staring straight ahead into this dense patch of trees that looks almost like a mini forest. Sarah and her family literally watched this guy for 10 solid minutes, and he didn't twitch. Not a single muscle.
So Sarah actually has to leave for college, right? Her older brother takes her on his scooter, and to leave the neighborhood, they have to drive right past this guy. He's bundled up from head to knee in an off-white shawl, wearing white pajamas and a light brown kurta. As they roll past, Sarah looks closer. The shawl is hiding most of his face, but guys, their eyes meet. She said a literal shiver ran down her spine. She recalled, "I could only see his eyes. His smile seemed to be a wide grin." She spent her entire commute agonizing over it. Was he smiling at her, or was he smiling at something hiding in those bushes?
Now, what makes this absolutely mind-boggling is the timeline. At 8 a.m., they spot him in the fog. Fast forward to 3 p.m., Sarah takes a taxi home, looks out the window, and he is still there. Same exact spot, facing the exact same way. The guy had been standing in the freezing cold for over 7 hours without budging. Then, her dad gets home from work at 10 p.m., he walks in and tells the family the guy is still out there. That is over 14 hours of complete, motionless silence. Can you even imagine? And here is where the tension just boils over. Before going inside, Sarah's dad actually walks right up to the man. He asks him, point blank, why he's been standing there all day. The response? Nothing. Absolute silence. He doesn't move, doesn't speak. That night, her dad does something he never does. He tells everyone to lock every single door and window in the house. Sarah nervously peeks out before bed and, yep, the smiling man is still standing out there in the dark. But by breakfast, poof. He vanished without a trace, just leaving this permanent, horrifying mystery right on their doorstep.
So the man in the fog was terrifying because he was this weird glitch in reality type anomaly, right? But he stayed outside. Imagine for a second that the threat moves closer. What happens when we cross from the eerie, unknown outside into a brightly lit public space where someone is actively following you?
Which brings us to case number 2, the Coles stalker.
This one takes place on a totally unremarkable evening. A mother and daughter are doing the most mundane thing imaginable, shopping for clothes at Kohl's. The daughter, our narrator, gets bored, as kids do, and tells her mom she's going to go wander the store. Mom says sure, just stay close. But the moment she wanders off, that baseline of safety just drops out from under her. She notices a woman dressed head to toe in black with long, dark hair. And this woman is staring a hole right through her.
Now, human brains are hardwired to recognize when a facial expression is just wrong. The narrator noticed the woman's eyes were so wide open it looked completely unnatural, and she had this heavy black eyeliner streaking down her face. When the girl tries to find her mom and nervously glances back, the woman is closer, and she's wearing this deeply unsettling, creepy smile. It's like the uncanny valley in real life, like a predator trying to mimic a friendly face and just failing miserably. Put yourself in this kid's shoes for a second. No cell phone, nobody to call for help. Pure, unfiltered panic sets in. She's frantically looking for her mom, can't find her, and has to make a split-second survival choice. She darts into the middle of the clothing racks to hide. She's huddled in the clothes, literally holding her breath. And then a hand suddenly clamps down on her shoulder from behind. She stifles a scream and whips around.
It was her mom. Immediate wave of relief, right? Even as she's getting scolded for running off. But the real horror of this story drops about a second later. Her mom's tone completely shifts. Her face goes dead serious, and she asks, "Did you see a woman with long black hair and wide eyes?" Her heart just stops. It wasn't just her overactive imagination. The threat was objectively real. Her mother had seen the exact same predatory woman stalking them. They paid as fast as they could and practically ran to the car. But she says the image of those unnaturally wide eyes still haunts her today.
Okay, let's look at how this builds. We started outside with a motionless stranger. Then we moved into a public store with an active stalker. But what is the ultimate escalation of this fear? What happens when all the distance is gone and the nightmare is already waiting inside your bedroom?
That brings us to our final case, the Midnight Intruder.
This one is visceral. It takes us to South Africa, very recently, in August of 2024. I want you to picture a scene of total vulnerability. It's Sunday morning, 2:30 a.m., pitch black. A woman named Zama and her 9-year-old daughter, Coco, are fast asleep. They live on the second floor of an apartment building, which usually gives you this false sense of security, right? You just don't expect someone to come crawling through a second-story window.
Imagine waking up to this. Zama is a light sleeper. She wakes up because she feels a shift in movement next to her. At first, she thinks it's just her daughter, Coco, reaching for the tablet in the dark. But as her eyes slowly adjust, the sheer terror kicks in. It's not her daughter. There is an unknown man literally leaning over their bed, and he already has her iPhone in his hand.
And how did he even get in? This wasn't some random chaotic smash and grab. It was methodical. He was skinny enough to scale the outside balcony rails all the way up to the second floor. Zama had left a tiny bathroom window unlocked, figuring, hey, we're on the second floor, it's fine. The guy actually squeezed his way through the metal burglar guards on that window. But here is the most chilling detail. Once he was inside, he sneaked over and quietly unlocked the front door first, just so he'd have a fast escape route if he got caught.
The moment Zama realizes there's a strange man inches from her sleeping child, pure, terrifying maternal instincts takes over. She starts screaming at the top of her lungs and lunges at him. He freezes for a split second, and a full-on physical brawl erupts right over her 9-year-old daughter. Zama is thinking, if he overpowers me, he's going for my kid next. She shoves him out of the bedroom into the living room, wildly grabbing pots, pans, literally anything she can get her hands on in the dark, and hurls them at him until he finally turns and sprints out that pre-unlocked door.
Which leaves us with the aftermath, left with the unknown. The physical fight was over, but the psychological toll is just massive. Zama had to cancel all her cards, and eventually she and Coco moved out completely. They were just too terrified to stay. Her neighbors even admitted they heard the screams but were too scared to come help. But there's a really dark postscript to all this. Exactly 2 days after the break-in, one of the known thieves operating in her area was found dead in the morning. Zama said she doesn't know for sure if it was the guy she fought off. And honestly, she said she doesn't really care.
And this perfectly illustrates the entire architecture of fear we've been looking at today. Notice how the escalation of physical closeness matches the severity of the outcome. Think about it. In India, the threat was far away and stationary. The resolution was a quiet disappearance. At Kohl's, the threat was mobile and stalking. It ended in a panicked, frantic escape. But in South Africa, the threat was physically touching the victim's bed, and that resolution required a violent fight, ending with a literal death just days later.
So it definitely leaves you with something to chew on the next time you lock your doors at night or walk down a foggy street. Which is truly more terrifying to you? The immediate physical threat that you can violently fight off to protect your family? Or the silent, unexplainable unknown that just stands there in the freezing fog, grinning at you, leaving you to wonder, why? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Stay safe out there and never